Hello there, a very good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Lunchtime News on TV1. As always, we're coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Today is yet another day where lockdown restrictions or travel restrictions that were imposed across the country continue to be relaxed. Of course, this does not mean that people can travel about freely as and when they please. The government, when lifting or relaxing the lockdown regulations, announced certain guidelines that must be followed. But are these guidelines really being followed? Is the general public aware of the threat that we are still under due to the COVID-19 pandemic? We've got these details and much more coming up this afternoon. But first, a look at your top stories for this afternoon.
Samagi Jana Balavegaya protests against the fuel price hike. Protest by JVP obstructed. Why did the government decide to import rice?
දැනටත් වී තියෙනවා හැබැයි වී සංගවලා ඒ නිසා මේ ඒකාධිකාරිය බිඳින්න නම් අනිවාර්යෙන් අපි මේක ආනයනය කරන්න ඕනේ తాවකාලික.
මේ ආණ්ඩුව මේ සහල් ආනයනය කරලා අහිමි කරන්න යන්නේ සුළු හා මධ්‍ය පරිමාණ මෝල් හිමියන්ගේ වෙළඳපොළ කොටස.
Did you know that Sri Lanka is being surveilled by India?
Now a look at those stories in detail. It has been only 2 days since the month-long lockdown or travel restrictions that were imposed in the island was lifted. And today is also the first day on which Parliament convened after the lockdown. Now, during the time of the travel restrictions that were imposed in the country, a number of important decisions in this country were made. These decisions were not only important to the general public, but also controversial decisions. For example, the decision to increase the prices of fuel in the country was strongly condemned by the general public, the opposition, and various other factions. However, the government made their case for the increase in fuel prices throughout this time period, especially because the travel restrictions that were imposed in the country prevented people from traveling outside their homes. Protests with regard to this matter were subdued. However, since the lockdown or the travel restrictions that were imposed in the country were relaxed from yesterday, people have begun to come out on the street to voice their objection to these decisions. Not only the increase in fuel prices, but also the fertilizer crisis in the country that the government continues to deny and admits to issues in the distribution of fertilizer in the country. The Samagi Jana Balavegaya today began a protest against the fuel price hike. The protest was launched from their headquarters.
Opposition parliamentarians from the Samagi Jana Balavegaya arrived in Parliament on vehicles used by workers. The protest began opposite the SJB headquarters in Pitakote this morning. This is a double whammy by the government. We didn't have money to buy fuel, so the two of us pooled in and got some kerosene oil for this three-wheeler. The fuel prices have increased. They are not even giving the people the 5,000 rupee allowance now. They are just lying to the people.
Just like the tires of this vehicle, the citizens of the country are running on a rim. The government that came claiming they will bring prosperity to the country now have failed.
They have attacked the small-scale businessmen. Small-scale businesses earn a living by delivering food items in a small lorry. The government has attacked the small businessmen of our country. With the recent fuel price hike, the frustration of the citizens has also grown. Every person in the society is affected by this. If the government can't make a proper decision or develop the country under these circumstances, we urge the government to step down immediately. This country has another option, and the only option they have is the Samagi Janabalavegya. We have handed over a motion of no confidence, and we will be able to identify the real patriots of this country by looking at the parliamentarians who support this motion. And if you have supported the fuel price increase, and now you are trying to defeat this no confidence motion, you are the real traitors of this country. If you want to show the people of this country that you are concerned, you will support this no confidence motion.
Meanwhile, another protest was held in Yatiantota opposing the recent fuel price hike. Members of the UNP and the Samagi Janabalavegya took part in the protest.
රජය වාම එක්ක ඉල්ලා අස්සෙන්න ඕනේ එහෙම නැත්නම් ජනතාවට සේවයක් කරන්න කියලා තමයි අපි කියන්නේ.
දැන් රට ගන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. අපි ඉල්ලන්නේ මෙච්චරයි. දුප්පත් මිනිස්සයාට සහනයක් දෙන්න, පොහොර ටික දෙන්න, දීවලයට සහනයක් දෙන්න. ඒ වගේම තමයි මේ තෙල් මිල අඩු කරන්න. A group of fishermen and supporters of the SJB engaged in a protest over the recent fuel price hike.
There is a certain extent to which the people can be burdened. Don't cross that line, or else the fishing community of Waligama will not hesitate to protest on the streets.
What really is the main reason for the citizens across the country to oppose the fuel price hike so much? One reason that can be highlighted is the fact that this has caused a ripple effect in Sri Lanka's economy, prompting the increase of many other essential items. The Janata Vimukti Peramuna had also taken to the streets, demanding for a reduction in fuel prices.
Members of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna staged a protest in Sevanagala yesterday. The protest was staged against the recent fuel price hike. However, the protest was interrupted by another group of people travelling in vehicles. Subsequently, the protest was called off due to the obstructions.
We don't care about these dramas anymore. The citizens of this country have rejected those dramas. They need to stop these dramas and reduce the fuel price. If they have some sort of conscience about the innocent citizens of this country, they will definitely reduce these prices. And we urge the government to do so and provide some relief to the innocent citizens of this country.
The motion of no confidence brought against Minister of Energy Udaya Gammanpilla by the Samagi Janabalavegya was handed over to Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapa Abewardena today. The motion of no confidence was handed over to the Speaker by the Chief Opposition Whip Lakshman Kiriel. Various views were expressed on the decision of the government to import Ponni Samba. Journalists raised a number of questions at the cabinet media briefing today.
We focused our attention on the price of rice in the market. We have decided to import 100,000 metric tons of samba.
There
is a massive shortage of fertilizer in the country and we are facing a threat to our food security. Is that the reason why you decided to import 100,000 metric tons of rice? The statement that there is a shortage of fertilizer for this season is a complete lie. There is no reasons to believe that there is a fertilizer shortage. There might be issues in the distribution of the fertilizer, but there is no shortage. There is an issue where some groups are using this to gain political mileage. There is a rise in the prices of rice in the market, and one way of controlling that price is to create competition. We would like to request the farmers in our country not to be scared. We have already begun the procurement of organic fertilizer both locally and if needed internationally as well. We feel that the transitional period in the middle will be a bit challenging to the farmers, so we urge the farmers to support us during this time period.
ජනතාවට අපිට හැඟෙනවා ඒ නිසා අපි තාම ගෞරවණීය ඉල්ලා සිටින ඒ නිසා ඒකට අපිට සහයෝගය දෙන්න.
ඔව් අමිතුමනි මේ දැන් රට තුළ
Sri Lanka's foreign reserves are low right now. At a time like this, why was the decision taken to import 100,000 metric tons of rice? Will this not affect our foreign reserves?
අපේ විදේශ සංචිත වලට බලපෑමක් වෙන්නේ නැද්ද?
සංචිත සම්බන්ධව මහා භාණ්ඩාගාරයේ
The Treasury and the Central Bank are handling matters on our foreign reserves. There is an issue there. I must state that, however, this is under control now.
ආකරණය කළ හැකි තත්ත්වයකට පැහැදිලිවම තියෙනවා කියන එක ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න.
රජයේ ගණන් කිරීම අනුව වී අස්වැන්න යහපත් පරිදි ලැබිලා තිබෙනවා. හැබැයි මෙම
According to the statistics, Sri Lanka's paddy harvest has been good. But because of this rice mafia in Sri Lanka among a few people, where they stock up on rice stocks and not release it to the market, we have decided to import this stock of rice to create competition in the market.
හැටියටත් තමයි මේ සහල් මෙට්‍රික් ටන් ලක්ෂය මෙරටට ගෙන්වන්නට තීන්දුව කරලා තිබෙන්නේ.
A protest over the fertilizer issue in the country was held opposite the Migasara Agrarian Services Centre in Veeraketiya, Hambantota. A tense situation arose between the protesting farmers and the authorities who arrived to quell the situation.
අනිත් එක දැන් ඔයාද මේ තීන්දුව ගන්න. තීන්දුව ගන්න. දැන් අපේ ගොයන් වල තව 45ක් වෙනවා. එක යූරියා ටයක් ගැව්වේ නැහැ. අපිට රහන ආධාර දෙන්න ගොයන් කැපුවාන් පස්සේ
ඔබතුමාලා කියන කතාව 100 ලක්ෂයක් ඇත්ත.
මොන තුන්දෙනෙක් ගොයන් කරලා අපිට රහන ආධාර දෙන්න.
A tense situation arose after the authorities informed the protesters that concessionary fertilizer was not available and that a bag of fertilizer cost 1,500 rupees. According to our correspondent, farmers engaged in the protest, blockading the Veeraketiya Middeniya main road.
Govia nasana andua. Hari takkadi andua. Hari takkadi andua. Benna bole andua. Benna bole andua. Varu apurana andua. Varu apurana andua. Varu apurana andua.
The United Rice Producers Association alleged that the country's rice purchasing mechanism has fallen apart. Addressing a media briefing in Polonnaruwa yesterday, the association pointed out that despite the 7 Gazette notifications issued by the government during the past 4 seasons, the rice purchasing mechanism of the country has failed.
පොන්නි සම්බා මෙට්‍රික් ටන් ලක්ෂයක් ගෙනීමේ යෝජනාව පිටුපස තියෙන්නේ මේ ගැසට් නිවේදනවල සහ
The proposal requesting to import 100,000 tons of Ponni Samba shows the success of these gazettes issued by the government and the success of programs initiated by the government to purchase paddy. Through this tender to import stocks of rice, we can determine whether the government has passed or failed in implementing their rice purchasing mechanism. Why are they importing these stocks of rice? Farmers of the northern and eastern provinces have already started harvesting for the yellow season. Just when the farmers get into the fields to pluck their harvest, the trade minister is issuing a tender to import rice stocks from foreign countries. What are they trying to do here? With this tender to import rice from foreign countries, our farmers will be worried about the market for their harvest and will soon try to sell. And then those large-scale mill owners will pop up and buy those harvests for a low price. This will help them to continue their monopoly in the market. By this importation of rice, the government will eventually break the income of the small and medium-scale mill owners. And through this tender, they will give that income to Indian and Pakistani mill owners. This tender will only affect the small and medium-scale mill owners and the farmers of this country.
මේ දෙන්නේ යන්නේ මේකින්ද පහර වදින්නේ පුළුවන් මධ්‍ය පරිමාණ සහල් නිෂ්පාදකයන්ට සහ ගොවියට මිසක්ක වෙන කාටවත් නෙමෙයි.
Does the government know that Sri Lanka is being surveilled by India? When questioned on the matter, this was Joint Cabinet spokesperson Minister Keheliya Rambukwela's response.
The Indian Navy has said, given the possibility of a security threat to India, they will deploy drones in the vicinity of Sri Lanka. This statement was made by the Deputy Chief of the Indian Navy, Vice Admiral G. Ashok Kumar. Also, it is reported that India is planning on purchasing special Predator drones from America. First, I would like to know that if this is a threat to the sovereignty of our country.
ඉන්දියාව මේක අපේ රටේ ජාතික ආරක්ෂාවට තර්ජනයක්ද අපේ සොයරිභාවයට තර්ජනයක්ද කියන එක තමයි පළවෙනියට දැනගන්න කැමති.
කලාපීය ආරක්ෂාව
There have been many issues in the region on geopolitics for a long time. These issues have always been there and we cannot deny them. There could be issues like that, but as a government we must not be of that stance that things like this will not happen, but rather to be aware of what could be done if something like this happens. The foreign minister has intervened in this matter.
තිබලක් ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම. ඒ නිසා මේ වෙනකොට ඒ සම්බන්ධව විදේශ කටයුතු අමාත්‍යාංශ අවශ්‍ය ප්‍රමාණයට මැදිහත් වෙලා තියෙනවා කියන එකයි මට කියන්න සිද්ධ.
පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරයේ සියලුම පරීක්ෂණ අවසන් බව.
You say that investigations into the April 21st attack are over, but then why is Rishad and his brother still in custody? Shouldn't they be produced in court? Is this not the reason why we are losing concessions like the GSP Plus?
අපිට අහිමි වෙන්නේ.
පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය සම්බන්ධව වාර්තාවන් ඉවර වෙලා ගිහලා ඒක මම හිතන්නේ අනවුන්ස් කරේ දැන් දවස් 3ක් විතර ඇති.
The investigations into the April 21st attacks have concluded. I announced that here about 3 days ago. We are not holding them arbitrarily. We have submitted facts to court and gotten their permission. So I believe that we cannot exert influence on that. There is an independent police and an independent Attorney General's department and an independent judiciary. So on the judicial proceedings, it is the court that will decide on these matters.
නිසා අධිකරණමය තත්ත්වයන් සම්බන්ධව ඒ අධිකරණයේ තමයි ඒ සම්බන්ධව තීන්දුව తీරන ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න කියන එක සඳහන් කරන්නට.